go through, and then once you get it through, you gotta get this ring back on this little groove. So that's the tricky part there, but it should go on a little easier than it came off. Yeah, we'll just pull that over and then push this down, and then that ring should snap there in place. And that's really crucial. You want to get that in there nice and tight so it stays. And then on the inside of the gear, you've got a little bearing that drops in there, and then this will drop onto your gear, and then you'll run the small pinion with that larger spur there, or counter gear, if you could call it that, and that'll give you a little bit lower gear ratio. I haven't looked at the manual to see what the actual, outwell drive ratio is, but it'll definitely change it. So anyway, that's the old style transmission, and a better look at that. So the shocks don't have a top cap on them. The whole shock is all one body along with the cap. So it comes apart here. And see what we got in there. And we've got no oil in the shocks. Got basically a piston that has just a slight flat spot on the side here. You can barely see it, really. It has a burr right there on that flat spot, which is where your oil is going to bypass. That needs to come off of there. You want oil to go through there. There's no holes in the piston. So they either use a groove setup or they ever use a groove setup where they have holes in these pistons so oil can transfer through, and they've only got this real mild little flat spot here with the burr from, looks like, the parts tree. So just to start out, we're going to put some 10 weight in there and see what that gets us in there for expansion of the shaft. I'm going to compress this all the way so we don't have any air pressure in there. Tighten this up. It looks like I got just enough oil to not have a pressurized shock piston. The 10 weight feels pretty good. There's dampening there, and it's not too strong. Not expecting these shocks to really be high performance by no means, so we just want them to function, and that's pretty easy to put together. So we're going to move on with our builds here. We'll take a look at the manual. Manual's pretty straightforward. It's nicely done. The pictures are easy to read, and the assembly is basically very similar with any modern day car. It's one step at a time, and the pictures are clear and the parts are fairly clear. So we'll get started on this thing and hopefully show you a few points in the build and we'll get going and hopefully show you a finished car here in a few minutes. So anyway, all right. They don't have a.
This part's fun.
Did you get it? Did you get it right?
I think so.
Yeah. That looks all
Because
right.
you gotta push down the spring and try to get that E-clip on.
Nice. Boy, that's a loose. That'll work good. It works. Functions nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they can see you actually working. It's actually not bad right where it's at, to tell you the truth. They can kind of see, you know. They don't have a. In building these two cars, one of the differences right off the bat we found on the Tomahawk, which is a little bit newer style car, same basic frame, identical suspension parts. They've included this little black spacer here on this frame, and if you look inside here, there's this little black piece that goes in between your suspension upright and your frame. Kind of hard to see, but in any event, these frames have a little slight bulge right here, and when you put the arm up here, let's put this on the Scorpion kit. When you put this up against your frame rail, that bulge tends to not make your part sit right. So one of the things I did right from the beginning was I took a sander and smoothed out that bulge, so now my part sits flat against my frame. You can see inside here that sits nice and true, whereas the way it comes, it's got this little kind of, oh, you can get closer or a better shot at that. It's really shitty. Has this kind of bulge in the bend there, which causes your part not to sit straight. So what I did was basically just sanded that down, that bulge out a little bit. You can kind of see there, and then now my my part sits nice and tight to the frame. While I was looking at the Tomahawk, Bryan's build, he's already past that point, and his model has got these plastic little spacers that they included, which mine does not. So they've obviously caught that issue, and on the plastic piece, if you can see in here, they've molded that plastic out so that the part fits
It
nice
has
and
a slight little groove to it, so
Right.
the little imperfection in the metal fits right into that groove, and
Right.
you don't have to worry.
so that's one difference. Kind of minor, but it's nice that that Kyosho picked up on it after the first run of cars.
Yeah, because